For more than 2 decades, her life has unfolded under the relentless gaze of the public. Each chapter followed, dissected, and debated. Katie Price has never been a stranger to headlines. But even by the standards of a woman whose personal life has long blurred with public spectacle. The events of recent weeks have struck an unusually discordant note. In the wake of a shock wedding in Dubai, a marriage announced and completed within days, Katie has made a decision that feels both significant and telling. She has pressed pause on her professional commitments. Most notably, her self-titled podcast, The Katie Price Show, has been temporarily shelved. Unofficially, it appears to be something far more complex. Officially, the reason is timing. What began as a whirlwind romance has quickly evolved into a moment of reckoning, not just for Katie herself, but for those closest to her, and for a public that has grown increasingly uneasy as the pace of events accelerates. A romance that moved faster than anyone expected just weeks ago, fans were still processing the news that Katie Price had found love again. Her relationship with Lee Andrews seemed to materialize almost overnight, moving from first introductions to declarations of devotion with remarkable speed. Then came the announcement that truly stunned even her most loyal followers. Katie revealed she was engaged, after knowing Andrews for only a matter of days. And for those closest to her, reportedly, it was nothing short of shocking. For some, concerning. For many, it felt sudden. It emerged that the engagement announcement was already outdated. Katie and Lee had quietly tied the knot in Dubai. Hours later, the story took another turn. The ceremony, intimate and far from the UK spotlight, nonetheless detonated across social media and tabloids alike the moment the news broke. Commentators questioned the speed, fans expressed disbelief. The reaction was immediate. And behind the scenes, sources suggested that even Katie's inner circle had been left reeling by how quickly everything had unfolded. Stepping back from the spotlight amid the growing noise, one absence became impossible to ignore. The Katie Price Show, a podcast that typically airs new episodes every Thursday, failed to appear the week after Katie returned from Dubai. For a woman known for confronting headlines head-on, the silence was striking. Soon, confirmation arrived. In a statement shared via Instagram, the podcast's official account announced a temporary break. "We're pressing pause on the Katie Price Show podcast for now," the statement read. "With so much current media attention, it doesn't feel right to release an episode at this time. The podcast has always observed the headlines, not added to them." On the surface, the message was calm, measured, and professional. It thanked listeners for their continued support and understanding, but beneath the polite wording lay an unspoken truth. The story had grown bigger than the show. Bigger than commentary, bigger even than Katie's usual ability to control the narrative. For a podcast built on candid discussion and personal insight, the decision to go quiet spoke volumes. Sophie speaks, carefully as speculation mounted. It fell to Katie's sister, Sophie, to address the podcast's sudden disappearance. Acknowledging the swirl of rumors, she spoke directly to listeners who were desperate for answers. "I know you've all been desperate to find out what's been going on," Sophie said. She offered no specifics, only a glimpse behind the curtain. Her tone was sympathetic but guarded. "Let's just say it's been one hell of a week." She reassured fans that the podcast would return, promising updates in due course. For now, though, she struck a note of weary humor, signing off with a rhetorical question that seemed to capture the collective confusion. "For now, well, what aren't we doing this week?" It was a small moment, but a revealing one. Even in her restraint, Sophie's words suggested that the past few days had been anything but calm. A cryptic image and renewed speculation. Just as the dust from the wedding announcement began to settle, another spark reignited public concern. Earlier this week, Lee Andrews shared a black and white image on social media, a painting depicting the silhouette of a pregnant woman. Her gaze lowered toward a baby bump marked with a crescent moon. The image was accompanied by Connie Francis's song Baby, a choice that felt anything but accidental. Katie Price has been open, often painfully so, about her desire to have another child. Almost instantly, speculation exploded. During her relationship with former partner Carl Woods, she documented her IVF journey publicly, sharing both hope and heartbreak with her followers. Motherhood, she has said repeatedly, remains central to her sense of self. Sources close to Katie suggest that little has changed in that regard. If anything, her determination has intensified. Now that she's newlywed again, having a baby is right at the top of her wish list, one source said. She knows time isn't on her side, but Katie has never been one to give up, especially when it comes to motherhood. According to those familiar with the situation, Lee is aware of how deeply this matters to her and is supportive of her plans. Still, the timing of the post, so soon after the wedding, amid mounting scrutiny, left many wondering whether the pace of this new chapter is once again outstripping caution. Subtle signs of family tension. While Katie herself has remained largely silent, subtle signs of strain have begun to surface within her family. Over the weekend, Sophie shared what appeared to be an innocuous post, a tranquil video of the British countryside, all rolling fields and quiet skies. The caption, however, carried an unmistakable edge. "This," she wrote, "and never stepping foot in Dubai." She followed it with a pointed addition, "Countryside over Dubai, always." The message was brief, but its implication was hard to miss. To many observers, it read as a quiet expression of disapproval, not necessarily of Dubai itself, but of everything it had come to symbolize in the context of Katie's sudden marriage. Those close to the family suggest they were blindsided by how quickly the relationship escalated. The speed of events, combined with lingering questions about Lee's past, has reportedly deepened existing concerns rather than eased them. A silence that speaks loudly. Katie's absence from her podcast has only amplified the sense of unease. Fans have voiced their support for Sophie, praising her for holding the fort during a turbulent period. At the same time, many have begun openly questioning whether this marriage, formed at such breakneck speed, can endure. For a public figure whose life has long unfolded in plain sight, silence can be more revealing than confession. Each missed episode, each carefully worded statement, adds to the impression that something fragile is unfolding behind the scenes. Bracing for what comes next as scrutiny intensifies, Katie Price's decision to step back from work feels less like a simple scheduling choice and more like a strategic retreat, a moment to regroup before facing what may be a challenging chapter ahead. Whether this pause will bring clarity, reconciliation, or further upheaval remains to be seen. What is certain is that the questions surrounding her sudden wedding, her family dynamics, and her future plans are far from settled. For now, the headlines continue, the podcast remains silent, and Katie, once again, finds herself at the center of a story that is as compelling as it is unsettling.